Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, World Alternative Media here, and we are joined by Tim Picciott of the Liberty Advisor. The market is in a bloodbath. We have seen historic moves in this past week. The market just closed as we report this. We're going to go into a whole bunch of stuff with Tim Picciott, who of course accepts clients and has been very successful in his options. We're going to get into that in a moment. I want to talk about what is actually happening here by going into it. Just a couple headlines. Dow Jones Industrial Average plunged 800 points on coronavirus fears. An older article from today says Dow slides 700 points as Wall Street caps worst week since 2008. U.S. Treasury bond yields have fallen to all-time lows over coronavirus worries. The Dow fell 933 points, and suddenly in the last couple minutes of the day before the market closed, it bounced to 349 down on the day, which was a massive last second buy up. We'll get into all of this in a moment. Carrying on, I noted here that the market has lost about 4,300 points in a week, which is unthinkable. I mean, it's just an absolute bloodbath. Powell says there will likely be a rate cut next month in response to coronavirus and market meltdown. And Powell also pledged to do whatever it takes to support the market and economy, yet we still see the Dow crashing. The plunge protection team is going to have a lot of work on their hands this next week. Before we go to Tim, I want to point out that we've been warning about this collision course for years here at WHAM, as there is more to it than just coronavirus is just, the nudge that the dominos needed. Less than 2 weeks ago, about a week and a half ago, we warned this would happen at all-time highs as the government offered a tax incentive to buying stocks, seemingly out of desperation. We mentioned at the time that the stock market is seriously at risk, and we got a whole bunch of comments, as per usual, saying that's nonsense, you guys are crazy, you guys are stupid. Well, a lot of comments really did not age well on that video. We're going to go to Tim Picciott right now, who has actually been successfully battling against this massive bloodbath with his clients. And Tim, I wanted to hear your thoughts on this crazy week and how this week has ended as well, because we just saw a massive buy up literally last second here.
For me, this is, thanks for having me on, Josh. This is basically the Super Bowl. Now I don't really watch the Super Bowl or care about the Super Bowl, but for us in the financial commentator world, this is, absolutely it. So, to see the market going down 4,000 points, and I'm sort of talking pretty upbeat and have a smile on my face. And why? Because because one of the big criticisms we get is, oh, you guys have been saying this forever, and if we would have listened to you, we would have just been losing money all this time, is, usually what the trolls will say. However, last year my clients were up right around 25%. We're running separately managed accounts, so not every single person is getting in at the same day, and we're getting new clients all the time. And so, last year we're up about 25. In January 15th, I re-upped my clients' put options. And so, for those of you who don't know what a put option is, it's sort of like buying homeowners insurance. And so, as if your house ends up burning down, well, then we build your house back. But if your house doesn't burn down, then you lose the insurance. You don't want to run this strategy all the time, but in this crazy world where central bank money printing can make the market, go sort of, all-time highs, which has, been going on the past, basically the past decade, or, like right now, the central bank says they're going to come out and do whatever it takes. And the market still closes down 350, even though it made a dramatic run in the past 10 minutes, which is sort of ridiculous. It was down from like 1,000 points, then would close only down 350. But that's closing down 350 after the Chairman Powell said he's going to do whatever it takes, which is sort of like what Mario Draghi said in 2014 when he said that they would do whatever it takes. But getting back to the strategy that we're running, and I only want to say this because I know that this is what the comments will be. I'm not trying to tout myself up or anything like that, but imagine if you have some sort of deductible on your car, and it's $1,000, and you get into an accident and you only cause $900 worth of damage. Well, it's not really going to matter. And so right now we're at the position where basically we've sort of hit our deductible, and any further decline in the stock market is really gravy at this point. So, options that we bought last month are up. I checked on this about half an hour ago, and so much has changed. But when I did check, it was about 179%. And we bought those all the way throughout the November elections or selection, because I really do think Bernie Sanders is going to have a great chance of winning. And so this is sort of Bernie Sanders insurance. This is not a, we're not going to be talking too much about geopolitics right now. But going back to everything that's happening, I mean, just you've got, the 10-year yield, I mean, basically at all-time lows. I'm not sure if it is an all-time low, but I mean, we're at 1.16. The 30-year is down to 1.67, which is actually inverted from the 20-year, which is 1.68%. I mean, you almost never see, these types of inversions, especially on the 30-year. And so I was saying in my presentation I gave at Acapulco that the Fed was using their dot plot saying that, the rates were going to go up slightly. And I said, that's fake news. I mean, I can pretty much guarantee that the trajectory of this is going to be going down. That's exactly what happened. So in a good market, my strategy made money. In a bad market, like what's going on right now, I mean, most of my clients when I was spot checking today were anywhere from year to date up 4% all the way down to about -3, depending on, if they're pulling money out.
Yeah. And I have to add, I mean, everyone, if you want to become a client of Tim's, you can check the links below the video in the comments as well as in the description. I do want to move forward here, Tim, a little bit here. What I find so crazy is that Powell made this statement regarding interest rates, and then followed by him saying that he'll do whatever it takes to save this market and the economy at this point. There was little difference initially when he made this announcement. This shocked a lot of people for a multitude of reasons. Can you go into the effects that you should have seen with Powell saying what he said about protecting the markets versus what we saw initially after the announcement was made?
I mean, what's gone on in the past 10 years is every time the Fed has, essentially cried uncle or reneged on everything they said that they're going to do in the past, what we've seen is, the market having a gigantic turnaround. And so, I mean, after he said that, I think it went from being down, 500 to being down 700 to being down 1,000 to then closing down 350, which is still, closing down 350 when they're saying they're going to do whatever it takes. Finally have the Fed, blown their wad, so to speak, where they've done so much that now, bad news actually is bad news. And whether or not it was the coronavirus, this market was way overinflated. There was no way it should have been as high as it was.
Well, yeah, that's actually what I wanted to get into with you, Tim. And I wanted you to break this down a little bit because, everyone's saying it was a coronavirus, and obviously the coronavirus would have an effect on it. There's massive contagion concerns. And I mean, it's becoming a really big issue. But I mean, this has been something that has been waiting to happen for a long time. It's been a very bubbled market. There's not many fundamentals there. I mean, there's a lot of great stocks out there, but I mean, overall, when I'm looking at the stock market over the last couple of years, I've seen a lot of things, especially big tech companies, .com companies, propped up in a way that they shouldn't have been. There's no reason, there's no value there that I'm seeing anyway. And of course, the plunge protection team coming in and pumping the markets. I mean, what do you think overall has really led to this collision course we've seen in the last week?
Well, I mean, the entire economy is a house of cards. And so, I mean, everything is predicated on getting more and more debt, getting people to spend more and more and more. And what used to happen is during recoveries, you'd see deficits, at least nationwide deficits going down. You'd probably see during a recovery, credit card balances going down. I think we just saw an article the other day where, revolving credit lines are at all-time highs. We're seeing all these different delinquencies pretty much at all-time highs. We're seeing, subprime autos delinquencies at all-time highs. And so if it's the greatest economy ever, why are we seeing all these signs at all-time highs? But everything was gamed and engineered to get people to keep spending more and more money and getting people further and further into debt. And so as soon as you take out, one of those, stools or one of those legs from a table, and all of a sudden the entire thing collapses. And that's really what we're seeing going on right now is that there's, the economy catches a little cold in terms of coronavirus, and now all of a sudden the world is paralyzed. And then, what really is coronavirus? I mean, there's been more people that have died of the regular flu so far, supposedly, than have even died of coronavirus. And it's mainly all, 70 or 80-year-olds. And who knows, maybe that could mean this might not be a popular thing to say, but it might actually be good news to the economy because now they won't be drawing from Social Security or Medicare. Might make people like Bill Gates happy.
Oh yeah, when you get into the details, I could see that. Yeah, for sure. I think that it's definitely been weaponized over the fear mongering. It's been pushed and weaponized to order out of chaos, right?
You mentioned the plunge protection team. Well, there's a Corona task force. I mean, led by Mike Pence. I mean, that makes me feel a lot better. But also on that task force is now Steve Mnuchin and Larry Kudlow. And so, I mean, are they doctors? Are they, what the hell do they know?
It reminds me of ministers in a lot of countries. I'm originally from Canada, and they have like health ministers that have no background in health and finance ministers that have no background in finance. I remember arguing with a finance minister in Canada, both federally and provincially, and none of them knew what they were talking about, and they just ended up walking away. One of them said I was probably right about what I was saying. I mean, these people have no idea what they're talking about. But moving on, I wanted to ask you, going forward, Tim, we're into the weekend now, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on where you think this is going to open up on Monday. I mean, obviously, lots of speculation. We got to be careful about the speculation, but where do you think it's going to open up on Monday? Is a plunge protection team going to come in, and are they going to be capable of propping this behemoth of a crash up?
I mean, we did see one of the ex-Federal Reserve governors, I believe it was like Kevin Warsh, say something to the effect of what the world needs right now is a global central bank coordinated policy to deal with coronavirus. And so who knows, maybe this weekend what we'll see is the Federal Reserve coming out, the ECB coming out, the Bank of England coming out, the Bank of Japan coming out, the Chinese central bank coming out, and all having a coordinated effort to prop things up. And sure, at that point, you introduce a whole bunch of funny money into the system, and then maybe the market goes up. But it doesn't take away from the fact that this is a house of cards. But if you can get all this funny money into the economy, but what if people aren't traveling? What if people in China, I mean, I read something the other day, and John and I talked about this in our last podcast, is that they had somewhere like 25% of Chinese CO2 emissions have actually decreased by 25% just because there's been a gigantic decrease in economic output over there and just, productivity. And so if people are scared and people aren't going anywhere, then that, there's no amount of debt that is going to paper this over. And who knows? I mean, personally, I'm not walking around scared or with mask on or anything like that, being, fearful of what's going on. But a lot of people are. A lot of people read the news. A lot of people listen to the news. And I think it was Mark Twain who once said there's two types of people: those who read the news, who are misinformed, and those who don't read, who are uninformed. And so, I mean, right now, I think that's exactly what's going on. And what could happen is all of a sudden, if there's a massive central bank statements that are made this weekend, which I think there could be, then we could see the market bounce back higher on Monday. But for my clients, it doesn't really matter because we have it hedged both ways. And I've been on video for the past 3 years talking about different strategies, particularly since October of 2018, mentioning the current strategy I've been running. You can go all the way back, spot check me. We've been making money on the whole time going up. We prevented our clients from getting decimated when it's going down. And, it's all smiles over here because, I mean, ideally, for me, I kind of hope the whole thing just goes down 50, 60, 70%. And then we then exercise our options, buy a bunch of stuff that lost way too much money, and then we'll end up making out like bandits. So I'm not actually worried about this. I've said it many times. I'm sleeping fine at night. I'm getting no clients who are calling me.
Right, and it needs to go down before we can really have a safety net going forward. And we've been anticipating a crash for quite some time, and it's amazing that it's been put off for as long as it has.
It's not the Fed's job to keep the market going up. It's not. It's not their job.
Yeah, and so, I mean, we should always be asking who benefits with this and follow the money and all that kind of stuff. But I want to note that, I mean, over the past several years, we've been talking about this. We've been right about it. We've been vindicated time and time again of everything from interest rates over to the housing bubbles that we've been seeing throughout the world, the poverty that's been rising due to massive inflation and printing of currency. There's root causes to these issues, and obviously Tim has been extraordinarily correct and has been pointing these things out for years. And
even on Bitcoin, I was at the TDV summit. There was an all-speaker Q&A, and one of the questions was, what will happen to Bitcoin during a financial crisis? And I actually said, there's a 10-second clip I posted on my Facebook today, and I go, this is controversial, but I actually think that Bitcoin, being a risk asset, will actually go down, somewhere between 50, 60, 70, 80% during a financial crisis, assuming that, this is a financial crisis and the market goes down because it is a risk asset. But then the eventual response to all the money printing on a long enough time horizon will then make it soar. And so, I mean, I said this on February 11th, just, 2 weeks ago. And so most people are touting Bitcoin as a complete safe haven. And so I was and even though I'm a gigantic fan of Bitcoin and a gigantic fan of crypto for everything it can do, I think people need to take, an honest assessment of what's going on. And that was in an environment that was not a popular thing to say. And right now, I mean, it looks like I'm right because Bitcoin, I think, is down around 10%. I mean, it's down right around, I think, the same that the market's down. So it has not been a safe haven. But I think eventually it's going to be a safe haven when the central banks get out of control.
It seems to be more of a safe haven when there's fear in the media about wars and stuff like that. We saw a huge influx into cryptocurrency over concerns with war in the beginning of January. And also there's quite a bit of a bump up last night when news came out about a war between Turkey and Syria and that a bunch of people died and that Russia's sending ships there. But then it continued on down with the stock market today. And obviously,
still a big year to date. I think it started the year at around like 7,000. I'm not sure what it is right this second. Like,
well, a year ago, Bitcoin was at $3,000 per Bitcoin, and it's currently at about 8,500 as I say this. But I do want to say, as we kind of wrap this up, obviously Bitcoin's doing some interesting things. Gold and silver are doing some interesting things. Metals like rhodium are doing some really interesting things in response to a lot of this. And I think the number one thing I want to tell people is that they need to be careful. Simple. They need to be responsible. They need to be self-sustainable. There's more solutions than there are problems, and we need to be very, very careful about what we do next. And this is why it's important that we have someone like Tim on, who, of course, has been very successful in saving his clients money over the years and up against. Didn't you start the day that Lehman collapsed or something? I mean, there's a lot of, you have a lot of background in this, and I suggest people check that link below if you want to become a client of Tim's, because I think that this is the time, if any, for you to really be looking at trying to save your assets.
Well, the time was a month ago.
Yeah,
but,
right.
No, now, but it's better late.
But this
than
is
never,
when people react. This is when people react. You know, we could yell to thousands of people all we want. Is often, unfortunately, takes the actual collapse, the crisis to happen before people respond. Now, how the Dow might get propped up by the plunge protection team, S&P, whatever it might be, how it's gonna work, I don't know. I don't have an image of the future that I can really go by right now. There's also a lot of people talking about how the NASDAQ was down because they had to shut the NASDAQ early because of a computer programming issue, and I don't know. There's some really sketchy stuff happening. A lot of people are in desperation mode.
Well, here's the thing that I'm really trying to focus on, because on a long enough time horizon, two young guys like ourselves, it doesn't really matter. I think the Dow by the time I'm 60 is probably going to be $1 million. But if you're 65 right now, if you're about to retire, or you just did retire, that's where things get really interesting. I know I talked about this in one of my presentations where you can go back to, I forgot what the exact year is, and maybe we can provide in the show notes, but it showed people retiring. I think it was April of 1969. And what it showed, they had a 60-40 portfolio. They started with $500,000. They're taking 4.05% out per year, all the other disclaimers. And now it showed one person, I believe, that retired in January of 1969. And after 30 years, they ran out of money. And then it showed somebody who retired, I believe it was April of 1970. So they just retired, like 16 months later. And then they, 30 years later, had $2.5 million. And so the biggest thing is what they call a sequence of return. So if you're about to take money out of the market because you need it to live off of, or you're going to retire, you really want to protect against what's called the sequence of return. I mean, that's one of the big things I try to guard against. I actually own sequenceofreturnrisk.com. So I mean, you can go there and see a little ditty on that. But that's the big thing. If you're close to retirement or you just did retirement, then you need to really evaluate what you're doing right now. If you've got 20 or 30 years, this probably actually is, in the grand scheme of things, probably a buying opportunity. I'm sure this clip will be used against me if the market keeps going down. But but eventually, I think on a long enough time horizon, it's going to keep going up. But
Well, anyway, I want to close it off. I have to get this video up same day, guys. There's a lot of editing and processing involved, so I don't want to make it too much longer. But I do want to just note that there's Ponzi pension schemes. There's the possibility of bail-ins and stuff like that going forward, and I think people should be really concerned about that and taking every precaution possible. So definitely check those links below, and make sure to press like on this video, because they are shadow banning the F out of financial videos right now in the face of this crisis. As we have been vindicated so much, they are really trying to crack down on us at this point more than ever. I've never seen so much shadow banning in my life, so make sure to press like, share this video on social media, get it out there, because we are up against a rock and a hard place right now. And make sure to check all those links below. Help out independent media all you can, so that we can keep putting this information out and be vindicated. Unfortunately, I would rather be wrong on this one, but we have been vindicated time and time again when it comes to the markets and the economy, and it's about time people start listening listening. So I really appreciate you going into all of this with us, Tim, today. And I think, we've given a lot of people a lot of things to talk about, and I think that it's about time that people take those precautions.
And people should check out your appearance on Tinfoil Hat, because it was absolutely awesome, and very proud of your appearance on that. And do we have anything we want them to say in terms of comment down below, like Zimbabwe or Prince Baby Prince?
Okay, well, let's see. I don't know. Short Corona. Let's say that. Just write short Corona. I don't know. It's so stupid, but just comment. Well, the reason we do this is because we are dealing with algorithm here on YouTube, and commenting helps with the algorithm, and also helps us know that you watch the end, because we will get comments that are attacking us within the first 10 to 20 seconds of publishing the video. People that haven't watched the video, and it's good to be able to discern between those that aren't watching the video and commenting, and those that are watching the video and commenting.
And the last three stock market videos have instantly been demonetized when we're just talking about financial stuff.
Immediately demonetized. Immediately. And it's hate speech and inciting violence and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, we are dying as a media because of it. So we need your help, and we need you to like and share, and GoFundMe, Patreon, subscribe, or join us on float.app, flote.app. Tim is at The Liberty Advisor, and I'm at Josh Sigurdson, as well as at Wham on Float. Sam Tripoli's on there now. James Corbett's on there. Dan Dix, even Stefan Molyneux. All these people are on Float. So make sure to go to float.app, the future of social media. Replacing Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon all in one, with encrypted messaging, monetization on videos, live streams with super chats in cryptocurrency, and no algorithm to tell you what you can or cannot see, which is helpful when we are entering into a crisis like this, a plague, war, and a famine, and poverty, and financial calamities, all happening at the same time. We need to work together. We need to work hard to spread these messages and not be used in this case of a crisis to create more order and eventually more slavery. So anyway, I really appreciate you joining us today, Tim. Let's wrap this up so I can get this edited and up. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and Tim Picciott signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth. Be the change. Like what you see here, Wham? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We cannot do it without you guys. Every donation is extremely, extremely appreciated, as we're getting incredibly shadow banned. We've lost 80% of our audience since January of 2019 and counting. They are ripping us apart here on YouTube, and the only thing we could do in the meantime, as we prepare for the next big step, is to ask for help from the viewers that support our free information that we try to post on a daily basis. You can also find us on Subscribestar, where just $1 a month, that's all it takes, $1 a month is all it takes to truly make a huge difference. If everyone gave $1 a month, it would change everything for independent media, and we could win this information war, and we can defeat the mainstream medias eventually. And of course, on Subscribestar, we post subscriber-only content that you'll only see on Subscribestar. So make sure to pledge there, become a patron. That makes a huge difference, guys. And also, don't forget to check out our Bitcoin address below in the comments and description, as well as on the screen for you to scan, if you please. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on the alternatives. We will likely be deleted by YouTube in the next 2 years. It's already happening on a vast scale. So make sure to find us on float.app. That's flote.app. At Josh Sigurdson, as well as at Wham, W-A-M. Float.app is replacing every social media, and I mean, it's just incredible the opportunities it provides for not just creators, but for the average person who wants to get away from these nannies telling them what they can or cannot see. They plan to replace Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon. You could subscribe to us on Float and pledge with cryptocurrency. It's really innovative. We are also on Picciott at World Alternative Media, as well as so many others, Minds, PocketNet. You can find us at World Alternative Media on Instagram. There's many options. So make sure to support in any way you can, even if it's just sharing our videos, pressing like, pressing to be notified. Anything helps, folks. You are the change you wish to see. Thanks for watching, everyone, and until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.